Welcome to the Meetings Podcast, the meeting organizer's podcast source for what's new in the meetings and events industry. Meetings Podcast is a conversation with a variety of voices that looks at events, meetings, and media. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events.
Okay, well, this is Mike from Grashak Events Media. Thank you again for tuning into the Meetings Podcast. I want to thank, first of all, IMEX America as our sponsor. They are awesome. We had a great time at IMEX this year. And I also wanted to thank one of our newer sponsors. It's the Pit Stopper. It's an absorbent, low-tack moisture capturing pads that they fasten under your armpits. So you never have those embarrassing, sweaty, wet pits under your dress shirts. Because if you are the pits, no one is listening to your presentation. So you can check them out at thepitstopper.com. This is probably something good for an event planner if they have that extra sweaty executive. So that's kind of fun. Good sponsor right there, thepitstopper.com. Today's podcast, of course, is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free Audible audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/meetings podcast. I listen to a ton of audiobooks. I love audiobooks. There's a ton of titles. You can get in there. You can find almost anything on there. I just finished reading a interesting book called Elon Musk by Ashley Vance. It's a story about the whole Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City, Tesla founder. Really interesting guy. Somebody doing something on his own that really thinking out of the box, totally out of the box, out of the world actually. So check that out. You go to audibletrial.com/meetings podcast. So thank you so much. Today's podcast, we have Amanda Young. Amanda is she is from GE Healthcare. She is America's event leader, the America's event leader for GE Healthcare, and she's out in Charleston. It was very interesting to talk to her. I'm trying to get more planners on the show so you can kind of see how they work, how they do things. She was 40 under 40 from collaboratemeetings.com. You can check that out. You can find her on Twitter, on LinkedIn. So she is meeting Diaries on Twitter. So check her out there. So let's get right into it. Let's meet Amanda, and I will be back at the end to fill in any gaps, and that's it. So I will see you after the show. Welcome back to the Meetings Podcast. This is Mike McAllen from Grashak Events and Media, and today on the show we have Amanda Young. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
You are America's event leader for GE Healthcare. You are out in Charleston, South Carolina. And let's see, your history, which I'm probably going to ask you a little bit about here, but you have a great little bio. You had been running an event team for a nonprofit technology company when a recruiter found you on LinkedIn and wooed you away to run GE's healthcare technology conference, Centricity Live.
Mm-hmm.
You used to work for Hyatt Hotels, and you worked for a small meeting planning for a small boutique technology company in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So you, aside from communicating with executives, working with keynote speakers, your sweet spot is actual planning. You work with people to understand the perspectives for events and turn those into executable ideas. As planners, we need to be creative problem solvers and keep calm no matter what happens. That's so true. You enjoy speaking at the event industry about event planning processes. You live in South Carolina with your husband, 2 sons that have been referred to as the Dragons.
Yes.
Why are they called the Dragons?
We are very large Game of Thrones fans, and
Great.
You can find my children running around in the middle of general session setup sometimes, and a general manager said they act like dragons.
So that makes you the Khaleesi, huh?
Ideally, I guess in a fangirl type world, yeah.
Funny, that's great. So what do you, now you say you speak on processes? Like what are some of the sessions you give? What are the titles, I guess is a good question so people can kind of get an idea for what you speak on.
Yeah, so I approach event planning from a project management perspective. I'm not really into food and beverage and the details. I'm really good with details, but I'm not really into planning. I wasn't really into my wedding. I'm more into project management and applying those practices to make sure everybody knows what they're doing and every box is being checked. So working for GE has been great because we're known as a process company, and I've really taken a lot of their science and mapped it to how I plan events, and it's been a lot helpful. So recently I've been giving talks on how agencies and planners can work better together and how they'll be working better together in 5 years. And a big focus of that talk is around mapping roles and responsibilities with agencies to their customers, and then making sure you have a tight project plan that isn't all assigned to one person. That's a big mistake we all make as planners, and I'm guilty of it. My boss will tell you all the time, I'll do it. But it's really like we say, like with Oprah, like doling out actions, like she doles out gifts, and like to laugh about it. And so, I just come from that expertise, and it's an easy thing to talk about, but it's a hard thing to execute. And I like to give planners tips on how they can set up their project plans to be successful.
That is so great. I mean, it's so important as a vendor for a lot of meeting planners. You've run into people that use Excel but don't use versions, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're just constantly trying to figure out what's going on and who's done what. It's so important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Excel.
I'm so happy you're doing these talks.
Yeah. I can talk to you about it after if you like.
So tell me, do you have a favorite quote?
Well, right now, my favorite quote is
Winter's coming? Oh, sorry.
Winter is coming. No, it's Walking Dead season. It's not Game of Thrones season.
Oh, sorry.
It's more like, where's Carl? Where's Carl? No, again, I love television. No, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And I think we just kicked off our big conference planning season. So we have a big conference in May for about 2,500 people. And, in order to rally the troops, we, say, hey, you got to take step 1 of 1,000 to get there. So we use that in our deck.
So cool. So what got you into this whole meeting planning? I know we heard when I read your bio, you started out doing this, but what made you get into meeting planning and around meetings and conferences?
Yeah, I have been planning events since I was 2. I think it was just something I was good at, organizing people and organizing plans. College, I planned spring concert. I planned all the alumni events at UMass Amherst. And when I graduated, I was headed for a career in talent management. And that was from my contacts from planning all the concerts. But the 9/11 hit, and the only place I could get a job was at Hyatt as a meeting conventions manager. And from there, I was exposed to the world of meeting planning, which,
great.
Organizing and, one thing led to another. And it was just an industry I fell in love with and have just been really laser focused on the industry for the last 15 years.
And what was the biggest challenge you encountered in this whole path? Actually, working for the Hyatt was probably a good taste of the other side of contracting and everything. Probably a great way to get started on it.
Oh, yeah. And it was like a boot camp, professional boot camp. I still am friends with, I can remember him, Phil Stam. He was the general manager of the Hyatt that I worked for. And I was a mess. I mean, professionally, the way I dressed, I couldn't leave. I had to get to work 9 to 5. Customer service training. You just came out of college.
Yeah.
You're a mess. It was really good boot camp, professional boot camp, but hospitality wasn't for me. I wanted to be on the planning side. I wanted to be making things happen at the meeting. So, but in terms of biggest challenge, I mean, we're faced with challenges every day as planners, but the more experience you get, the more you learn to be able to stay calm. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm faced with a challenge like 3 to 4 times a day. But if it was, I don't know, real challenges, I'm managing the expectations of the person you're planning the event for. Because you have to remember, some people who are your internal customers have never planned events and they don't know how to handle the workload and the stress. So keeping them calm, being their punching bag, is a big challenge that you just learn over time how to cope with. But I've made some mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I have made some big mistakes in my career that I have learned from.
Everyone does. It's funny you say that about being calm. I have a producer that I've worked with for years, and she's great in all the stressful times. But I know when she's stressed because she has a habit of kind of putting her hand in the back of her hair, more and more. And so the back of her hair just starts to get higher and higher. And that's how I can gauge how things are really going, because she's
Right.
like, her hair gets, and nobody knows that, I don't think, except for me. And then she'll go to the restroom or whatever, between and fix it. She does it, but I'd like, oh, she's nervous about what the hell's going on here. We got to look out to see.
Right.
But it's great. I mean, but that's how we are in this industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole duck thing across the pond. You got to be nice and smooth, but underneath you're paddling like crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So now tell me a little bit, what was the when you knew this was the right decision? I mean, it sounds like this was what you've always wanted to do, so you're doing it, which is great. But when did you know you had made the right decision? Was there a time at an event or something that you were like, oh, it was an aha moment for you?
No, I think it's just always been there.
That's great.
You know what? I think it's okay for people to jump around in their careers. When you're, especially when you're young. I mean, I think you jump for salary, you jump for experience and exposure. There's so many factors into changing jobs. I think that it's been more of a place I want to stay put in, as opposed to looking for the next big thing. And I feel really comfortable where I'm at in my career and the company I work for, to be staying put and, doing good things with the events that I've been working on. So, I don't know. I've always had focus to be in events. I've always just been good at that.
That was very politically well said, too, just in case someone is listening to this with GE.
No, I did.
Just
I
kidding.
did print
I'm just kidding.
things. Yeah, I think it's a good company. Yeah, it's funny. I started with a very conservative company, and I'm back at one. Yeah.
Yeah, and you sound like you're not very conservative.
I mean, I'm a Bostonian. What do you expect?
Yes. So take us through, someone listening might be new to the events industry, and they say, what is a day? What is it like? Now you say you just launched the your conference season. So are you, take us through a day, or what are you doing right now? What's it like normally from when you say we're going to start the conference season to what's going to happen in the future? Like, just a brief overview. Like, what does that entail for a day for Amanda?
Yeah. I have no idea what I do in a day. I don't know. Okay, so I start my day usually yelling at my sons. Shoes on.
Get warmed up for the day.
The day starts, and then I take them to school in a golf cart. I always tell everyone, I have my little commute because I work from home on a golf cart.
Nice.
No, I typically start my day. I'm very routine, so you will find me at my desk at 8:15, and I will be here till 5. And in between that, it just depends. I mean, if we're starting an event, I'm making sure our plan is airtight. And I usually work through Excel or PowerPoint to set up roles and responsibilities and timelines. And I live in a world of project management. And then, I don't know, you're jumping all over the place. I mean, I can be on a call doing 2 things, 3 things at once.
Right.
because I have different events going on. So, normal tactics for an event, overseeing food and beverage, overseeing the budget. We have compliance. Every event I plan has a compliance part to it that takes up about 25% of the planning. And, that a lot of that makes up about, I don't know, 65% of my day.
And you say compliance. What does that mean for somebody who doesn't know? Like you're saying, what does that mean? Is that compliance within GE that you have to get things signed off on, or what does that mean?
Yeah, so it's a healthcare company, and we adhere to FDA Sunshine Act guidelines. We have our own rules around it and our own reporting structure to make sure we're following all the rules. So, since we have a lot of customers coming through our events, it's important for us to ensure that they're coming through our events compliantly. And we're really, anytime we plan an event, we have to be asking those compliance questions, meeting those budget numbers, filing the paperwork, which is the not the fun side, the wedding side of the event planning, but it's necessary. And I about 25% of any event I plan, the piece of it is compliance, and overseeing all of that.
And so in the future, are there things that, because you're very much into processes, is there things that you're trying to install to implement to help this process along, or is that something you have to do?
Yeah, great question. So there is only so much I can do with the tools we use to report. Those are managed by a different group. But what I do is, I work with different event technologies. I work with Cven and Lanyon, and we're working with Merit's technology right now, and bending the tools to make sure we're collecting the right information up front or the right disclaimers up front so the customer never feels all the back end work that's going on. It's really important if you do work for one of these healthcare companies or medical companies, pharma companies. I mean, finance has it. Everybody has some kind of compliance, but it's very important to be upfront when you hire a technology company for registration and event management. Be upfront with your compliance needs and get that built out up front. And work together to build that out, because it'll help you in the long run when you have to start doing reporting. And right now, I'm looking at strategic meeting management through Cven to see how they can help us make sure we're collecting all the right information to be compliant, and then also track all of our events that are happening.
Right, find out what's going on and what's working and what's not, kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, and this is the evolution of planners. And, this is kind of my whole mantra of planning, is that we can just sit and execute tactics all day. Don't get me wrong. I'm watching Game of Thrones, working on tactics, troubleshooting emails. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm doing that. But I think in the future, we really need to rely on technology to make us more efficient as planners, and move away from this loving the tactics and loving being in the trenches, doing all this work, to figuring out how to set up your project to be doing less work and using your technology to help answer a lot of questions people have.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So do you have any, now here's a few questions that are just kind of about you, more or less, and thank you for answering that question that I just had. But do you have like anything that's really working for you right now? Like, food, exercise. Is there some sort of web stuff that you turn to every day? Do you say you work at home, and I do too. And are there things that you use to stay in touch with the world? And that's a kind of a broad question, but what's kind of working for you right now?
Cvent sourcing my events through Cvent is working. Having it's all, a lot of the stuff I have that's working for me right now has to do with sourcing. And it's because I'm not doing the sourcing anymore. We have a lot of events, and I rely on Cvent, I rely on an agency, and I rely on my NSOs to help me get all that information we need in order to make quick decisions about locations and budgets and everything. That is working for me. And the other thing that's working for me is I am not traveling to a lot of the events I'm managing, like the smaller one-day things. I don't travel to those, but I help plan those. Hotels that are having web-based communications with their catering or AV people, like Marriott has one. And I was working an event in Phoenix from my house in Charleston, and I was able to keep up with everything that was going on with the event at any time, like I was there. And there was no reason for me to be there, and it was great. And it was so easy. So I think
what was that again? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So how did that work?
it was like a Marriott mobile app. You
Okay.
communicate with them every detail on site. So you could be in Charleston and they're in Phoenix, and you're managing the event via mobile app.
Very cool.
It was cool.
And so when you say agencies, I'm just looking at someone who might be listening to this who's just starting out in event planning. When you say you're working with agencies and NSOs, what kind of agencies? And I don't know what NSO is. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So agency event planning companies.
Oh, okay. Like third-party planner.
Yeah, third-party planner to help you source events. And then we work with a lot of national sales reps for big hotel chains who I rely on to tell me if a hotel is in good shape or not before I go looking for rates from them.
Okay.
I can't really, I don't really enjoy doing the research anymore online of trying to find a hotel. I kind of like I trust TripAdvisor. I trust the salespeople to tell me a place is nice and it's not, you're not going to show up and the fountain in the front has, like gross birds and ducks swimming in it. Unless it's the Peabody, which that's the thing, but they clean the fountain,
Right, and those ducks are trained. They don't even poop, I don't
think.
Those
ducks, I don't even know if they're real ducks, but they're amazing.
Yeah, they're like from Disney, I think. Yeah, you're right. So what book do you gift others? Is there any book that you gift others or like blogs or anything you listen to? First, let me ask about books. What books do you? Is there any book that you give everybody?
No, I don't read.
But it could be fun. Okay, so what?
I give photo albums of my kids, even to like vendors. No.
That's great.
I don't really have a lot of books that I don't have a lot of time to read anymore.
No, it doesn't sound like it. Yeah.
I have small children, but I read every industry blog there is.
Do you? Okay, so what's your favorite industry blogs that you
the Event ManagerBlog is great. That's based out of the UK. The Velvet Chainsaw blog, which is he's a great thought leader. His name is Jeff Hurt. He is fantastic, and the stuff they come up with. I like Collaborate Meetings magazine. I read that a lot. And I really follow LinkedIn to see what people are posting about events, because I think that all I have is time to look at these quick, lists, and they really do a good job of, I think, structuring their blog posts in order for a way that planners should be thinking. We should not be thinking in 30 days out, manage food and beverage, check your budget, ask, look for executive upgrades. We really can't be thinking in those terms anymore. We have to be thinking, like I said, in project management terms. And these blogs really help get your head wrapped around that, like how to implement a mobile app, how much time you need, how much money you need. That's stuff we need to be thinking about as planners.
Right.
It's hard to find that in a book. There really isn't a good event planning book right now, but I did read Martha Stewart wedding planning book 10 years ago.
Well, like the Event ManagerBlog, they're constantly coming out with ebooks and things too. I think that's the new book for like learning and
they're
the
awesome.
industry, and same with the Velvet Chainsaw guys.
Yeah.
Guys and gals that are there.
They do a good job.
Did you ever have a nickname?
My nickname is Peo.
Peo. And why do they call you that?
My maiden name is Peolilla, and they used to sing that song Deo all the time in college, and then they started changing it to Peo.
Perfect.
Yep.
What's the best advice you ever received?
Career-wise, I have to be more analytical in my approach to things. That was early on in my career. And then he taught me how. And it's stuck with me ever since. That was really good advice. And I don't know, personal, be passionate. And I think it's something I've always, as soon as you kind of lose the passion, it's okay to think about something that would make you happy.
Right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. What's I kind of asked you this already, but do you have something that's working for you right now? Like, do you use a new app? Are you using some new vitamin, or is there an exercise program? Is there a time saver? Some sort of hack you're doing maybe for work that you could share with someone that might be able to use that also?
For work, oh my gosh,
it could be for life. I mean, that.
Yeah, I mean, I exercise a lot. I'm training for a half marathon.
Nice.
I did CrossFit, but I had to take a break after 4 years. But honestly, I work with a lot of people. I have a family, but I do have time to myself. And, I've mentioned television a lot and people make fun of me for it, but that's the only time where my brain stops.
Yeah.
And I think in order to be planners, we're so manic with all the details that come in to really find that peace and quiet, whether it's a run or it's an exercise program or something, to just turn it off for an hour.
That's great. I know I meditate actually every morning. I started doing that like a year ago, and it really works for me. Sounds kind of new agey and Californian. But
no, I've heard that, and
it works for me. It's fantastic. And then we also watch TV also here at the McAllen household. We've tried to cut back on the wine drinking and the TV, but we're still doing the TV, it seems.
Well, I'm allergic to wine, but I am not allergic to champagne. And it came out that it's good for Alzheimer's if you drink a lot of champagne. So I said, that's great. But when I drink so much champagne, I don't remember anything. I'm not really sure how this is going to work out.
So that's a good clipping for the kitchen to put on the wall. Good one. Yeah. So what's your favorite industry event to attend? And then why is that? And if there is one.
I went to the CVent conference this year and I loved it. They did a great job. I know my Lanyon friends would hate hearing me say that, but I really enjoyed it because I found the caliber of planners there was feeling the same thing I was feeling, and we were all learning from each other on how to use technology to make our events, more efficient. So I really enjoyed the CVent conference. Personally, I love Zach Brown concerts.
Nice. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, he's a lot of fun. And I haven't been that excited at a concert in a long time. That they just do a good job. So, if you don't find me working, I'm probably at a hoedown Zach Brown concert.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What is the coolest new trend you've seen or excited about?
Oh, yeah. So Beacons, I think Beacons is going to do what we all wanted QR codes to do. Mm-hmm. We have an event coming up where we're going to be using Beacons at, the poster sessions. So in a lot of medical events, they do air quote poster sessions. And I think Beacons are going to revamp the way we approach poster sessions, which is a tradition for the medical community.
And why? How does that work?
Meaning, how do the beacons work? Or
with that for that in this situation.
I think what you're going to start to see is that the people who are developing the poster sessions can develop content online and digital content that they can swap with the person who's interested in the poster. So their presentation becomes three-dimensional. So you not only can have it there on your poster board and in the thesis you just wrote, but then also you can take it to the second screen and have links to things and converse with people on text or Twitter or however people talk now, and exchange information more rather than the poster just ending at the event. So I think Beacons is going to allow people to have that easy access to get the information that we always wanted QR codes to do, but I think Beacons is a little easier. And I think I met a woman who runs events for Cirque du Soleil, and I had so much fun talking to her because We don't do events like Cirque du Soleil, and I am not flexible. So she was a dancer and does it like, she has a person they deploy at events that is actually like made of cotton candy. So
How funny.
great conversation. But her whole mantra is, her whole thing is the 360-degree experience and triggering senses throughout a general session or a performance to get people's attention spans back onto the stage. So you could have your CEO up on stage talking for 45 minutes and, having a couple of things queued up around the perimeter of the room to rejigger people's attention spans and working with your executives to say, okay, at 20 minutes in, I don't know, we're going to have a drone drop something in somebody's lap. It's going to happen. Prep them for it.
Yeah.
And because the attention spans are gone.
Right.
I mean, I both talked about it, but the working through that is going to be exciting.
That's very cool.
Coming up that we're going to try to do that at. I just got to get the executive on board.
It sounds like such a great idea. Well, he or she would probably love to have the attention there. I mean, we all know that happens. Everyone zones out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No matter how good the speaker is, too. I mean, you could be the most dynamic executive speaker.
Right.
All right, because I want to be respectful of your time. I know you have to go.
Yeah, I got to
The
run.
last question is, if you could talk to the high school senior you, what would you tell yourself?
It's okay that you got detention for that party. It's okay. Because in 15 years, you will be inspiring the event professionals.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, I don't know what I would say. I'd say so much. Stop dyeing your hair pink. But Gwen Stefani will still be doing it in 20 years and you'll still be watching her on The Voice. You know what? I think everybody always said, you're too organized. You're planning too much. And everybody but my parents put me down for being an organizer in high school. They tried to steer you away from just a natural tendency to gather people together, and I just have that. I always did, and I never really realized that until I started planning events and people showed up. So I would say, high school self, stick with your dreams, but when you take your market, don't focus on marketing as your degree. Focus on like a business administration and finance, like trying to get experience in crunching numbers, because so much about event marketing is being able to establish ROI. And I actually had to go back and get trained in how to figure that out because I didn't do any of that in college. I mean, I took walking for a class at one point. So, I just didn't know how useful it would be down the road. And I always say to college students, make sure you understand analytics and how to develop metrics around anything, showing value in something.
Right,
so,
right.
That's
you must feel very fortunate just because you did follow your path.
Yeah, I do. I think it took some time to focus, and now I'm having a lot of fun talking to people about it, and I think it's good, even talking to you, I think there's a lot of exciting things with this career path that you get exposed to.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. All right, so how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to contact you?
Yeah, super simple. I have a Twitter handle, Meeting Diaries, just spelled Meeting Diaries, plural, where I talk about events. And I have the same Instagram handle where you will see pictures of events, my children, and the New England Patriots. So feel free to follow me if you really want to see my crazy children. But Twitter's the best way. I love talking to people on Twitter, and you can get in touch with me there.
And you were also the 40 under 40.
I was.
Which is fantastic. People can find you there. Read more about you there.
Yeah. It'd be fun to get it again next year, so you can like call, collaborate, and tell them, hey, she's still young. She's got 3 years.
All right, Amanda. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great day.
Great.
And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much to Amanda for being on the show, and thank you, IMEX America. I want to thank Pit Stopper again for sponsoring the podcast. Check them out for if you have somebody with that is the pits, because I love their tagline, their USP, their unique selling proposition is because if you are the pits, no one is listening to your presentation. And also, thank you to Audible.com for your audiobooks. They have free audiobook download for Meetings podcast listeners. You can find that at audibletrial.com/Meetings podcast. I spoke about this at the beginning of the show, but I just listened to the book Elon Musk by Ashley Vance, and it's an amazing story of the SpaceX Solar City Tesla founder. And actually, we bought a Tesla, so it was something I wanted to read, and it's a really good book. So if you have any questions, any comments, please give me an email at mike@grassshackroad.com. That is all spelled out, Grass Shack Road, 3 S's in the middle there, or meetingspodcast@gmail.com too. Really happy to hear from anybody who's listening to the show. I would really appreciate it if you would do a review in iTunes, if it really helps people find the show, and that would be great. So you just go in there, search for Meetings Podcast, and write a review. It's very easy. It takes about 3 seconds to do. So thank you. I appreciate you, and have a great day.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.